Okay, so my name is Joe Herlihy. I'm Vice Chair of the Needham Personnel Board. This is an open meeting being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the outbreak of COVID-19. The governor's order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. I think I should start to confirm that we have a quorum. So why doesn't everyone present call out their name? My name is Joseph Herlihy. Mark?
Joe Burns.
Joe Burns. And I guess the record could show right now that Vivian Zhu is absent, although she's expected to come a little late today. All right, Chuck, take it away.
Great, thanks, Joe. Well done. All right, thank you all. So the first and really main thing on the agenda this afternoon is there's some revisions proposed for Schedule C. So Schedule C is our listing of part-time, temporary and seasonal positions within the town. And it has a listing of all the titles and their corresponding rates, compensation that goes along with them. And in your packets, there is the fact sheet. And then there is a proposed Schedule C on the second page, which actually shows the new rates. And then on the pages 4, 5, and 6, there are a comparison of last year to this year and the percentage increase, what that actually represents in terms of percentage increase. So these positions include a lot of park and rec positions, library positions. And some offices have some part-time, non-benefit eligible admin staff. There's the Council on Aging has program or activity instructors that teach some of the Zumba yoga classes, things like that. The election workers, this also includes our public works seasonal staff and interns, van drivers. Really what spurred the change that's required, the first change that's required is minimum wages increases across the state to $15 an hour. And we do have several positions that are right at minimum wage currently. So for those positions, those are the ones highlighted in yellow. We're required by our law to increase those positions up to at least $15 an hour. So you'll see that includes the building monitors, the building monitor 1, the general services assistant, which is kind of just a basic admin, entry-level admin job. Senior core workers or elections inspectors, the library pages, laborers and trades assistants, and the student interns. So those need to be brought up to at least $15. Then the next set of kind of changes are as a result of minimum wage increases. We looked at all those other positions that are similar to those that are being increased because of minimum wage to make sure that there's a proportionate, we keep the proportionate difference between the two positions, or the multiple positions actually, so that we're just not changing the bare minimum and leaving the others the same to prevent compression between the two. So those are highlighted in orange. And you'll see the bill, so building monitor, good examples, building monitor 1 and 2. Building monitor 1 was $14.26 an hour. It's being brought up to $15 an hour. Building monitor 2 was $19.90, which is above minimum wage, but in order to keep it at the same delta between the building monitor 1 and 2, we're proposing to change that to now $21 an hour. So we've made similar, several proposed changes similar to that. So election clerk, election warden, to keep that in line with the change for elections inspector. Because the library page is the lowest position within the library, part-time library positions, we're increasing the rest of the part-time library positions by an equal amount to keep that delta. As well as the park and rec positions also. And then, so the third change is part of Schedule C. So in speaking with the Health and Human Services Director, they've really had a hard time recruiting and retaining van drivers. The director pulled some compensation data from our comparable communities, saw what others were paying for similar positions. And I worked with him to come up with a new pay structure that puts us more in line with what the average is out there for van drivers. So the proposed increases for van drivers, let's see here, gives them almost a 6% increase. But that's because what we found in our market study is we were paying so much lower than some of our comparable communities. So this should get a 5.96% increase to these positions, should get us more competitive and able to recruit and retain van drivers.
And what are these van drivers? They drive, what do they drive? Who do they drive?
Yeah, so they aging services provides a service to and from their building. So they will pick up patrons and bring them to the activities, the programming. They'll also provide transportation at times to and from medical appointments or grocery stores, some of the basic needs. So they do a variety of things, and it's a service they provide to the community for their senior population.
Yeah.
They end up doing a lot of drawing a lot of patrons to their programming at the center.
Yeah.
So it is a lot of that back and forth.
Are there any other kinds of van drivers except the ones that do the, the senior center and
It just for the schools has their own type of, obviously they have the bus drivers and they have van drivers as well. They're totally separate from our classification system. So it's kind of a unique, that's their own thing. But in terms of our general government, these are the only van drivers that we have out of the Council on Aging currently. We have, where is it here?
I had a question. Were these non-union jobs, or are these all union jobs, or some are, some aren't?
Good question. So everything on Schedule C is either temporary, part-time, seasonal.
That's what I
They're
thought.
all non-benefit eligible and they're all non-union.
So what percent of the town's payroll, I know schools, we don't count that because that's happened. What percent of the town's payroll would you say are all these positions? 10, 20, 30?
Great question. I don't think it's even that high.
Oh, really? Okay.
In terms of total payroll, I don't think it's that high.
And then what was the, what does all this come to in terms of an increase, percent or dollars amount? What did you guys figure? Any idea?
So our finance director ran the numbers, and we will have enough in this current year's budget because there's only 6 months left in this current fiscal year to support the increases. And we've talked to department managers to let them know they're going to have to work within their current budgets to be able to support these increases, and they should be able to.
Okay,
But it shouldn't be significant where we're gonna need,
More money.
appropriation at town meeting or something like that.
okay,
But it may be that managers will make it work by hiring them fewer hours or if necessary. Is that what you're saying, Chuck?
Yeah, if necessary. They, because of the turnover in these positions also, there's a certain, I guess I would say a higher level of uncertainty in terms of how we budget for personnel for these positions.
right,
So they should be able to make it work in terms of the existing staff they have and able to support just normal turnover throughout the course of the year. A large part of the staff, where is it? The seasonal park and rec positions. So I'd say they have over 100 staff, but they'll start their programming in May or June. So the bulk of all of that expense will happen in the next fiscal year.
Mhm.
So that's probably the most out of this group, I would say.
Oh, it has to be done. So-
Any other questions for Chuck or?
And I'll also just say, so the Finance Committee Executive Secretary, there's also been, that position supports the Finance Committee. It is hired by the Finance Committee. The current person in that position has been in there for over 10 years. We recently we ran that position through our class and comp scoring system. And to keep it in line with some of the other full-time positions to see what it came out as. It shook out to the same as a grade 8 in our full-time classification system. Therefore, we're proposing an increase. The proposed rates based on a grade 8 max step. Because the incumbent would theoretically be at a top step in grade 8 if she were full-time. But she only works at 19 hours in a week, which comes out to 988 hours per year. So that's how that increase was calculated. And it comes out to an 8.2% increase to her annual salary. But that really hasn't been looked at in a number of years. And we wanted to get it in line with our new class and comp system. Hence that larger increase. And then finally, I'll just mention, so everything that's not been affected by unemployment is proposed for a 1% increase, which is the same as what the rest of the non-represented full-time employees got on July 1st of 2022. So our long-term goal would be to keep these positions in line with the non-represented full-time positions in terms of general wage increase. We'd actually like to do that on a fiscal year basis going forward. So it makes more sense in terms of the budget process as well. So we probably wouldn't look to come back to the group for an approval for more changes until 2024, July of 2024, so that we're on a fiscal year basis now. Really, just the increase to the minimum wage caused us to make the changes effective January 1st, outside of our normal changes.
Okay. Any other questions for Chuck? All right. Hearing none, I guess as vice chair, I can move that the board recommend adoption of the proposed changes to Schedule C effective January 1, 2023. They'll be ultimately adopted by the select board. That's what I understand. Anyone willing to second that motion?
I can second.
Joe, thank you. Now I'm going to take a roll call vote because apparently that's part of the emergency regulation. So,
Does that leave me? I say yes.
okay, Mark Fischetti, you say aye. Okay. Joe Burns,
Aye.
Joe Hurley votes aye. So the ayes have it. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Really, that was the main thing on the agenda. The only other business I would mention, we have a grievance brought forth by both the police officers and police superior officers union that we will hear on January 4th. We'd like to have that meeting in person, just because it's those type of meetings are easier to conduct in person, so we can lends itself better to the conversation and follow-up questions and all of that. So that would be the plan for the next meeting. I had forwarded the actual grievance that was submitted by both unions. So feel free to take a look at that. We'll be sending more information as we get closer to the meeting, but I would expect, I mean, Joe, you've been here for a few grievances, but typically it tends to be like a kind of a hearing type format.
Right.
Each side would present, the reasoning, and then the board would have the chance to ask questions of each side if they have them, and then make a decision. And
Although typically we've often taken it under advisement and made a decision at our next meeting, or, depends on how long the actual testimony goes. Yeah.
true, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I think the past few we've had, the board wanted to take in the information and have a chance to, sit on it and think about it, and we call another meeting to make the actual decision at
Yeah.
that point. So that's
When I looked at it, Chuck, it seemed to be the difference between base pay and average pay or regular pay. What is that? I mean, how is one
Yeah.
different from the other?
sure. So without getting too far into it, the question comes down to a different interpretation of the language. So you'll see the section in the contract that is being identified as the it's known as a certification stipend, which is
Mhm.
new in this current year's contract. And it talks about, you're right, it talks about whether it's base pay or all the pays that are regularly issued on a weekly basis. So the police, if you look through the police contracts, there's a number of they're called ad pays or stipends. So there's the base wages, which is in the table there, and then there's also there's a differential if they work the night shift. There is a differential for longevity if they've been there for a certain number of years. There may be stipends for different assignments, like a detective, just as examples. But there's usually them in the fire department have a lot of ad pays, as they're called.
Mhm.
And the question is whether the intent was to have that certification pay be on just base wages or all stipends as well.
Which is the higher rate, right?
Right. Because the
Higher.
certification pay is a percentage.
Right.
So is it a percentage of base rate or base rate or a percentage of all compensation? And that's where the disagreement in terms of interpretation has come down to. Basically. So we've confirmed, and the town manager is available on January 4th, and the union is as well. And the union has agreed to both take up the superior officers and officers, I believe, is agreeing to take it up at the same time because it is the same issues.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
So we'll have that to look forward to.
Yeah.
And what else? there may be more information. I know we talked when we met in person about the select board goal of kind of looking at the role of the personnel board. So there may be more information to report at the January 4th meeting as well. And I think that's it for other business I mentioned. Oh, actually, Vivian's here. Let me just promote her to panelist. See if this works.
Well,
There we go.
Sorry, everyone. I was hung up in a meeting and I switched over from my college account instead of logging on, so I didn't log on the panelist link.
Oh, no
Nice. to-
problem.
I've been listening the last few minutes, and Chuck, yes, I think the intention is that Kate with you will talk about the role of the personnel board and some of the thoughts with respect to shifting us, excuse me, to an advisory panel. And I'm taking a look at some materials along those lines with the hope of sharing it with the board before our meeting for conversation.
Excellent. Thank you. Vivian. Yeah, so we should have more information at that point, some more concrete ideas. Was also mentioning, Vivian, next time we'll have the police grievance will be the large thing on the agenda, and we will we'll plan to meet in person in town hall. And I think that's all I had for other business. Does anyone have any questions about anything else while we're here?
All set?
No,
All right.
I'm good.
okay.
All
Well,
right.
Vivian, would you like to move to adjourn today's meeting?
I'll let you do it, Joe. You
Okay.
thank you for taking
move
all
to
the
it.
administrative responsibilities. I'm
I
sorry,
move-
everybody. I was hung up on a meeting.
Oh, no, that's no problem. So the motion is on the table to adjourn the meeting. Any seconds?
Second,
All set.
Okay,
There you
all in favor?
go. All right.
Now, do we need to do a roll call on this one? Oh, we do. Okay. So Vivian,
yes.
yes. Joe Burns,
Yes.
Mark Fischetti,
Yes.
Joe Hurley, he votes yes. So it looks like we are adjourned.
Thank you all. I appreciate
All
it.
right. Thanks, everyone. Happy
Happy
holidays.
holidays.
Have a nice
Yeah.
holiday.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, have a good
See you
one.
all. See you all in the new year.
Yes. Happy New Year too.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.